Hi guys, thanks for tuning into my YouTube channel. For those of you who are here for the first time, my name is Catherine and I tell true stories and facts. Today I'm going to talk about generations and especially why are the Generation Z behaving like this? A generation is a name referred to people who were born about the same time with a gap of between 15 to 20 years. And the generations were named actually in Europe and America, but was adapted all over the world. The terms, there was a reason why they were given these names. And we will not talk about the ancestors, but we will start from a generation called the Lost Generation. The Lost Generation was born between the generation of the 1914. They were born between 1883 and 1900. So most of them are not alive at the moment. Yeah, maybe some are, but we never know. Probably not moving. And the Lost Generation had this name because they were considered lost due to their tendency to act aimlessly, even recklessly, focusing on hedonistic accumulation of wealth. Their life was just aimless, as in they just believed in luxuries and spending money on luxuries and will get the money in any way they will want. They had no aim in life. They were just living, luxury, enjoying life without any aim. And it wouldn't bother them how they got the money, so long as it was there. So they were just like a lost generation, has no way, has no target. That's why they got this name. Normally, such generations are actually, these names, a generation is actually affected by their parents. What led them to do this? Maybe before the lost generation, maybe the parents were not so well off. And so they thought that by spending anyhow, that is what life was all about. Maybe their parents were so strict, things like that. So they thought that being rebellious is the best, things like that. And then after the lost generation came the greatest, a generation called the greatest generation. The greatest generation was born from 1901 to 1927. Why are they called the greatest generation? This generation fought in the World War II. A generation of towering achievements and modest demeanor. They were achievers. They were modest. That's why they were called the greatest generation. Between 1901 and 1927. Look at the clothes that the Europeans were wearing. Those wide clothes. If you watch the movies of slaves, you will see how they were dressing, like umbrellas and curtains. They were modest. Those were the days that the men were opening doors for the ladies. They were, they had a modest demeanor, as in it didn't matter how they said the word was also taken care of. You just don't say any word. How you say it meant a lot. Etiquette. That was why they were called the greatest generation. And then we came to the silent generation. Why was it called the silent generation? After the lost generation, we came to the silent generation. These were the people born from 1928 to 1945. Why were they silent generation? They were the silent generation because they just adapted the systems that were set by the people who fought in the World War II without any question. They were just working within any system. They did not want any change. They were a peaceful group. They were non-risk takers. And they did this by just keeping their head down and working hard, earning in silence. And that's how they gained the word silent generation. They were not rebellious, just silent. And they were not risk takers. They were playing safe, most of them. It was a characteristic. These generations bring about these changes from the other generation because of what they have seen from other generations. Like they saw how people died in the World War II, World War I. So they don't want to face these things. So they better just stay peaceful. No rebellion. And then after this, the silent generation, we come to the baby boomers generation. The baby boomers generation were born between 1946 and 1964. Why were they called baby boomers? As in, babies were booming. Reason? During this time, there were increased birth rates. There were increased birth rates. Birth rates. Now, this was after the World War II. Increased birth rates as if they were so busy fighting that they did not have time to produce children. And so after the World War II came the baby boomers. That is how they got their name. And then came the Generation X. The Generation X. They were born between 1965 and 1980. Well, it's known that this is the best generation because they're considered like they're very resourceful, independent, and good at maintaining work-life balance. They were the first generation to own personal computers, and they have a willingness to work hard and achieve their goals. And it is believed that the women in the Generation X tend to look younger than their grandmothers during their 40s due to the discovered tips on beauty regimes and things like that. But I think this is why these generations were named in Europe. So you should consider this as part of their skin routine, as in their generation was aging faster than their generation that is born before them was aging faster than them when they were the same age level. But in Africa, it is just the same actually. You will not notice a bit of a difference because of the melanin, maybe the skin tone and the traditional foods they were eating. Actually, you'll find that even now, the generation of the silent generation might be looking younger than the baby boomers because in the silent generation there was healthy food, no fast food, things like that. This is in Africa we are talking about. And then now we come after the Generation X, we come to the Generation Z. These are called the Generation Z. Where did the Generation Z get its term? It got its term because they were born in technology when there was a lot of technology going on. And so it's gotten from zooming into the computer. They're always zooming into computers. They grew up knowing the internet from a very young age. And so you can imagine most of them, their behavior is shaped by what they see on the internet. Because you can see most of them, most of the time, are holding their phones up. Anything they do has to appear on the phone. Whatever they're cooking has to appear on the phone. Whatever they're going to eat has to appear on social media. So if you're from another generation, or like if you're from the X generation and you're dining with these people, you're going to get frustrated. You want to start eating, but they'll tell you stop. They want to take the picture of what they're eating first before you start eating. So you have to be very patient with this generation. Most of them grew up with single parents, and most of them have delayed marrying or they've altogether forgone marrying. These are the children of the Generation X, by the way. And they're people of TikTok, Snapchat, and something called Whisper. Even that one, I've never heard about it. And this Generation Z were growing up during recession between 2007 and 2009 when there was employment stability. And so as they began moving into adulthood, the generation is aiming at avoiding the same difficult situations of the recession that their parents faced before them. And that is why these days, when you go to the streets, when they are rioting, when they are holding protests against the government, you'll see most of it is in the Generation Z, because they don't want to face the same difficulties that other generations experienced, especially during the recession, during 2007 and 2009 when they were growing up. So they have experienced all this. You can see it at the moment in Kenya, where they're fighting for the financial bills to be changed, things like that, or to be removed altogether. It is mostly the Generation Z. They think that the other generations have failed them. So, when people behave like this, at least understand where they're coming from. And then there is, after the Generation Z, there is this generation called Alpha. These are the kids born between 2010 and 2024. We are still waiting to find out how they behave because they're still growing up. They're still growing up. So if you like my content, like, share, and subscribe. Ciao.